Hey, 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 hey. Hold on, y'all. Waiting for my people to come in. Just 1 second. Oh, I need to put the link in there. Duh. Put the link in there so they can come in. Hey, guys. Latrice, you still starting trouble, young lady? See, this is why I didn't want to come on, because I knew folks was not going to come in. I have 9 people in this chat, but then you guys said, come and read. I got 9 people in this chat. Nobody's coming in to read. Still starting trouble, young lady?
I'm here.
Turn your thing down. Honey, you're the only one here, and Rhoda's here.
Okay, I'm here.
You're the only one in here, and Rhoda. That's it. Everybody else is in what's the name chat? That's why I didn't want to start, because we have 16 people, 14 people in the chat.
I figured that.
And you kept saying, go on, go on, go on.
We do need to push the transcripts, though.
Yeah, but people not showing
Maybe
up.
Maybe we should move the time up.
Move the time up. I was busy.
Or back. I don't know. Where's Rhoda?
Rhoda's in the chat.
Oh. Where's Terry?
Not here. They all over there watching, what's the name's commentary.
Well, what should you do?
They all listening to Choke.
I know. I was listening to him too.
That's why I didn't do it yesterday. That's what I told you. No, because people gonna keep going. No matter how much you say, they're gonna keep going over there. So it doesn't make sense for us to be competing with him trying to do this R. Kelly thing.
Yeah, true. So should we get off and go over there?
I don't want to go over there. I got stuff to do.
Well, I'll read if someone else wants to help.
Here come Rhoda.
Okay.
Mitzvah's on her way.
Okay. I'm going to go get a drink real quick.
Do we know what we up to, Rhoda?
Nope.
We're on 9:30.
Okay.
Line 15.
Okay, let me get there.
Here come Mitzvah.
Let me get to 9:30, 15.
Mitzvah, you have it already?
Transcript? No, I don't.
Hold on. I'll send it to you.
9:05. Oops, I went too far. Okay, 9:09, 9:12, 11, 12, 9:13. Okay.
You know, I haven't read in a while, so.
Woo!
I've been in the bushes.
Oh, lordy.
How's bush life been doing for you?
It's been okay. You know, it's always a mess. So this is the only really even place. So I just, stick over here in the bushes sometimes.
Got it. Okay, check your email. I'll just send it.
So what is Choke? No Joke or whatever his name. What are you doing tonight?
Right.
He's still doing the court.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Let me get position. Let me get my water and get my. Let me sit here a minute. Let's see.
I mean, is what he's doing, is it going to be helpful though? That's the question. I mean, If not, is it going to be helpful for anything for him or no?
He's bringing awareness.
Oh, okay. Why is so much blacked out? What page are we on? Dang, it's a lot of blacked out stuff.
We're on page 931.
931, okay.
915.
931. Oh, wait.
Oh, he's playing the Ashanti's interview with the radio station? Oh, okay.
And there's still people that'll listen to it, when they have time. I know there's people waiting on the transcripts. They want to hear them.
931. Okay, it was Justine Street.
915.
Okay, on 930, page 931, right?
No, 930.
Oh, 930. Okay.
Line 15.
The court, all right.
Yep.
All right. Bloza admit that he was playing on your phone.
Oh.
Somebody else still. Oh, okay. Okay.
Was it last night?
Huh?
Was it last night? I just came into the conversation. Look at me just butting all in. Who was playing on who phone?
Let's continue. We'll talk about that later.
Oh, okay. All right.
Let's go. Go ahead and read. All right. You're welcome, Melanie. Okay, guys, y'all ready? Y'all just gonna have to play extra parts, okay? I'm gonna put it up. Hold on, so people can see it. Just 1 second.
Who all we got?
Got
Rhoda,
3
you're the
people.
court, right?
I'm on the court and somebody's
I'm
Missy Mad Santas, you gonna be Azriel or who else?
Yeah.
I would love to be. I would love to be.
Oh, okay. So
Hold on. Let me get my number. Hold on, y'all. Hold on a second. I'm going so people could see it.
Okay.
9:30. Are we doing still crossing? Oh, I mean, direct examination.
We're doing direct.
Okay. All right. I'm about to show this. Welcome everyone to the reenactment of the trial. I know the trial is over, but we need to see exactly what happened. And we're here to show you from all sides of exactly what happened at the courthouse. And here we go.
You're on line 15.
That's you, Rhoda.
913, line 15.
Yeah. The court.
I got the wrong date. And we're on August the 23rd.
We're on page 930. Yeah.
Oh, 930. I thought somebody said 913. Okay, wait a minute. Let me get there. That's why I was like, wait a minute, I got the right page? Okay. Okay, 930. Here we go. Okay, 915. Okay. All right. Do we have everybody we need to have? Okay, let's get the jury. All right. Are we ready to resume the direct examination? Go ahead.
Thank you.
The witness is reminded she's still under oath.
Yes, thank you.
You testified before we broke about a time when the defendant told you to stay in a room in the Ohio Street studio. Other than the Ohio Street studio, were there other occasions where the defendant made you stay for periods of time?
Yes.
What other locations do you recall the defendant made you stay for periods of time as a result of violating one of the defendant's rules in his eyes?
Aside from the studio that he later had in the Atlanta house, the tour bus.
You mentioned a studio that the defendant later had. Do you remember where that studio was?
It was Justine Street.
The studio was located on Justine Street.
Yes.
In what city?
Chicago.
You also mentioned a tour bus. Do you remember a time when the defendant told you to stay on the tour bus?
Yes, I do.
Do you remember where you were located, where the tour bus was at that time?
Atlanta, Georgia.
And do you recall what led the defendant telling you that you needed to stay on the tour bus?
I had broken one of his rules, and I did not admit to breaking one of the rules.
Do you remember the particular rule that you broke that day?
I do not.
Do you remember approximately when it was that the defendant had you stay on the tour bus in Atlanta?
It was for about 3 days.
And do you remember approximately when, either in terms of your age or in terms of time frame, this happened?
I believe that this happened in 2016 or 17. I don't recall.
And what, if anything, did you do while you were on the tour bus?
There wasn't nothing much that I could do, but just wait for him to come on.
And what, if anything, did you understand the defendant wanted you to do while you were on the tour bus? Objection.
Well, did he tell you what you were supposed to do while you were on the tour bus?
It was a punishment not to be around him, to
Okay.
not be around him.
Okay. Next question.
Do you recall whether you had food that time in Atlanta when you were on the tour bus? For how long did you say it was?
About 3 days.
Do you recall whether or not you had food while you were on the tour bus for about 3 days?
I did, yes.
And how did you receive the food?
There was a fridge and a microwave, and occasionally, if he ate, they would bring it and leave it underneath the curtain.
And when you say curtain, what are you referring to?
The tour bus, there was a curtain in the front where no one could see the inside of the back of the tour bus.
And you said that they would bring it to you. Did you see who was bringing you food?
Never.
How would you know that the food was ready or that there was food for you?
Because I would hear them put it underneath the curtain, and then I would hear the tour bus shut and lock.
And just to be clear again, was the tour bus locked from the inside?
I don't know. I never tried to open it. It's always been unlocked, getting on and off for me.
Okay, but when you were on the tour bus that day for a period of time, you didn't try to open it? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I did not.
Now, to your knowledge, were any of the other females who were living with the defendant at the time ever subjected to the same punishment where they had to stay in a room or a location for a period of days on account of the defendant believing they had violated a rule?
Yes,
How did you know that?
because they would not be around for a few days, and we would just know not to ask
Not to ask whom.
him, like, where were they?
And again, him, who are you referring to?
The defendant.
Do you recall what happened on December 28th of 2015?
Me and the defendant had gotten into an argument.
Whoa, where are you at?
You said this. Hold on. Where is December 28th?
Uh-huh.
You're
What is it?
supposed to-
9:35?
Line 20.
Line 20.
Oh, 935?
Yeah.
Oh, shoot.
934. 934. 934.
Oh, 934. Oh, I done skipped. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Line 20. I do not.
I'm showing the witness only what's been marked for identification as 935B. Do you recognize what's shown in 935B?
I do, yes.
Does this refresh your recollection as to what, if anything, happened on December 28th of 2015?
It does, yes.
And that day, December 28th, how old were you?
What year is this? 2015?
Yes.
I was 17.
And when were you turning 18?
December 30th.
What, if anything, do you recall happening on December 28th of 2015?
Me and the defendant had gotten into an argument.
And do you recall the nature of the argument?
Yes, I do.
What was it about?
He had expressed to me that he didn't celebrate holidays because he no longer had his family. And I felt if he did not want to celebrate the holidays, I could have been home with my family celebrating.
Did you tell the defendant that?
I did, yes.
How did the defendant respond?
He was upset with me.
What, if anything, did the defendant do or say towards you?
He did make me leave, stay in the room.
Do you recall what room you were in?
That was at the studio.
Where was the studio?
On Justine.
And was that in downtown Chicago?
Yes.
The government exhibit 935B, generally speaking, what are those? What is that?
It is a text message of what I had sent my best friend at the time.
On what date?
December 29th.
The government offers 935B.
Any objection?
No.
All right. That's in evidence.
May I publish, please?
Yes. Is this jury only or?
No, it can go beyond the jury. Can you, starting from the bottom, can you read the text messages starting from the bottom and moving up? And just to be clear, who wrote those text messages?
I sent these text messages.
Okay, can you read what's shown on 935B, beginning where my pen is pointing?
Yes. I just felt to rebel, so I did. And then I was like, can I take a shower? And he was like, no. You're going to stay in the room until you tell me why you.
And there are 3 dots after that. What does that represent?
There was more to the text message.
Just not shown on this particular.
Yes.
And reading above that, what did you write?
First of all, I never had an attitude. You always think someone mad.
And above that?
And then I kept calling and texting him over and over.
And above that?
And he was like, no, you text me while you had an attitude first.
And those text messages, when you refer to he, who are you referring to?
The defendant.
And in the first text message that you read, the one on the bottom where my pen is pointing, where it says, and he was like, no, you're going to stay in the room until you tell me why. And then it continues. What did you mean by that?
I had expressed to him that I had an attitude because if he didn't want to celebrate Christmas, I could have been home.
What did you mean by saying that? He was like, no, you're going to stay in the room.
Meaning that I could not leave the room until I apologized for having the attitude.
Do you remember what room within the Justine Street studio you were in?
The control room.
What, if anything, did you understand that? What, if anything, did you do while you were in that room?
There was nothing in that room for me to do. There was only a TV in that room.
What, if any, communication did you have with the defendant?
I did have my phone. However, he was ignoring all the calls and texts that I had until I had admitted why I had attitude.
Did you eventually admit that you had an attitude?
I did, yes.
Did you believe you, in fact, had an attitude?
I did not know.
How did you admit to the defendant that you had an attitude? How would you convey that to the defendant?
I would have to have been really remorseful, and I would have had to feed his ego.
Specifically, what would you have done to convey that to the defendant?
I would have to have said exactly what he wanted to hear.
Who did you say that to?
To the defendant.
To his face?
Yes.
Did you ever write letters?
Yes, I did.
What letters would you write?
I would write many letters.
When you were in a room as a result of violating a rule, would you ever write letters to the defendant?
Yes, I would if I did not have my phone. Yes.
Were there times when you were in a room without your phone?
Yes.
Why would you be in a room without your phone?
Because he would take it as a punishment.
What would you write in the letters?
It would have to be an apology for a rule that I had broken.
What, if anything, would you do with the letters that you wrote?
I would have to give it to him, and he would basically read it.
How would you give it to the defendant?
I would just give him the sheet of paper, and sometimes he would make me read it in front of him, or he would leave with it and then come back at another time.
Do you recall an occasion where your first letter was not sufficient?
Yes, I do.
What happened?
If it was attitude in the letter, then I would still be stuck in the room, and I would have to rewrite the letter.
Who determined if there was attitude in the letter?
The defendant.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'm showing the witness what's been marked for identification as Government's Exhibit 926. Do you recognize what's shown in Government's Exhibit 926?
Yes, I do.
Generally speaking, what are they?
That is pictures of the studio on 209 North Justine Street.
Now, do you recognize the time frame from which these photos were taken?
Yes, I do.
When were they approximately taken? When do they appear to show what time period?
We had already left the studio.
And what year was that?
2019.
And just to be clear, where was the Justine Street studio?
209 North Justine Street, Chicago, Illinois.
And are the photographs contained in Government's Exhibit 926 fair and accurate photos of how the studio appeared at the time when you were there?
No, some are, not all.
Have you seen, though, the studio look the way that it looks in these pictures?
Yes, I have.
The government offers 926.
Objection.
Well, I think you've got to specify which ones are fair and accurate recommendations and which ones aren't. At least that's the way I understand the witness testimony. Is that your objection?
Yes, Your Honor.
Sorry, I didn't hear your objection.
It's not just me. Why don't you take the exhibit to her and have her show you which ones are not fair and accurate representations? That might be the fastest way.
I can do that. Let me just ask one primary question.
Okay.
You said that there were certain things that were different in those photos than some of the time you were in the Justine Street studio.
Yes.
What was different generally?
The bedrooms. They actually all had beds in them, which he had his workers remove them.
Okay, aside from the type of furniture in there, are these photos?
Everything else is accurate.
So the structure is the same
Yes.
as it was when you were there.
Yes.
Is it fair to say that there are just some photos where the furniture is a little bit different?
Yes.
All right. May I approach?
Well, with that proviso, if that's the only difference, do you object to the photos going in?
Yes.
Okay. I guess you can now go through them all.
All right. There are different page numbers, so I'll refer to the page numbers.
Why don't you give them to the witness? Just go through and tell us which one is different.
Okay, so this is the master bedroom that was renovated, and it did not look like this initially.
Didn't look like this. What?
Meaning that this was a bedroom that we had gotten renovated.
Right.
So this is what it looked like.
So that's correct, right?
Yes. Yes.
Just go through the ones that are not.
Are they numbered?
Yes, they are numbered. So when you get to the one that doesn't fairly and accurately represent the way it looked, tell us what number it is and why it's not a fair and accurate representation.
Okay. 016 is not accurate. There was a bedroom in this room.
So there is missing furniture.
Yes.
All right. So that's 16.
018 is 018 is also missing furniture.
Okay.
019 is the same picture of 018, just a different angle.
And when you say it's missing furniture, what kind of furniture is it missing?
It was bunk beds in that room.
All right.
And 020 is missing furniture.
And what furniture is missing from that one?
A bedroom.
Meaning bedroom furniture?
Yes, a master bed was in there. And also 025 is missing furniture. There was a bed in there as well.
Aside from that, are those fair and accurate photos of how the studio on Justine Street appeared?
Yes.
And the photographs shown on page 16, 18, 19, 20, and 25, are those fair and accurate photographs of the room themselves with the fact just that the furniture is different?
Yes.
The government offers Government's Exhibit 926.
Any objection?
I just want to see them.
Well, you have copies of them, don't you?
No,
Here.
thanks. Just one question, Orvador. Oh, go.
Sure.
When these pictures, when were these? No, I'm sorry. When were these pictures taken?
These pictures were taken after we had already left the studio.
That's still you.
Geddes?
No, that's you.
Still you.
That's still me? Oh, I
Yeah.
didn't say Candy. Okay. I'm sorry. When you said we, who are you talking about?
Me, the defendant, and Joy.
Do you have an approximate if?
It's very hard to hear you. Do you have an approximation as to what year that was?
2019, meaning even though he had the studio, he was behind in bills. So we had.
That's not what I'm asking you. I'm asking you specifically, was this 2019?
She answered it. She said it was in 2019. All right. Any more questions?
Yeah, nobody told you to butt in. Oh, no, I'm good. No, I'm good.
Any objection?
No objection.
All right. They're in evidence.
I'm showing the witness. I'm showing everyone what's in evidence as Government's Exhibit 926. I'm going to show you page 29. Do you recognize what's shown in Government's Exhibit on 29?
Yes,
What is that?
this is a control room.
And at the time on December 28th, 2015, where the defendant told you to stay in a room for a period of days, where were you told to stay?
In the control room.
And what, if anything, was the control room when you were there in 2015?
It looked very similar to this, and it had two different chairs, which were more like day chairs, and a black couch in there.
And if I turn the page to page 31 of that same exhibit, can you see what's shown there?
Yes.
What is it? What is that?
That is the black couch that was put in the studio in 2015.
Okay, is that just another angle from within the control room?
Yes, it is.
Before lunch, I believe you testified that the defendant told you to delete your social media accounts. Do you recall that testimony?
Yes, I do.
Did you follow that rule?
I did not.
At any point, did the defendant learn that you had not deleted your social media accounts?
Yes.
How did the defendant learn?
There was there was once I was actually on Snapchat and he had walked into the room.
Where were you when this happened?
The control room.
The same control room that I just showed you?
Yes.
In the studio on Justine Street?
Yes.
What, if anything, were you doing when the defendant entered the room?
I believe I was making a video. I was in the middle of working out.
Do you remember how old you were when this happened?
I was 17, of course. I was 17 for 5 years.
Exactly.
Right. And you
Here we
said
go
you
with
were
that
making a
again.
video?
Uh-huh.
Can you explain what you were making a video of?
It was just a selfie video of myself in which I had planned to send to my immediate friends.
And what application were you using?
She said Snapchat.
Snapchat.
How did the defendant respond when he came into the room?
He was very angry and he ended up taking my phone and breaking it.
What, if anything, did the defendant say?
He asked me, who was I talking to? And had I been talking to guys?
How did you respond?
I told him I had not been talking to anyone.
What did the defendant do?
He then took the phone and broke it.
Did you see him break it?
Yes, I did.
How did the defendant break your phone?
He slammed it
On what?
on the ground.
Do you remember what type of phone you had?
It was an iPhone.
And after the defendant slammed the phone on the ground, what happened?
Meaning that I had to stay in the room until he came back whenever he cooled down.
No, you skipped line 13.
Oh, shoot. After that, he had left me in the room.
And when you say he left you in the room, what do you mean by that?
Meaning that I had to stay in the room until he came back whenever he cooled down.
But he never hit you.
Mm.
How did you know? Why did you believe you had to stay in the room?
Because it was a rule of his.
But what, if anything, did he do to convey to you that you needed to stay in the room?
He told me that I could not leave the room.
What, if any, where did the defendant then go?
I don't know.
Did he stay in the room?
No, he left.
What did you do while you were inside the room?
I wrote a letter apologizing.
Do you remember what you wrote in the letter, generally speaking?
It was very remorseful because he eventually forgave me.
How, if at all, were you able to give the defendant the letter that you wrote?
When he would come back into the room, I would give him the sheet of paper.
And what, if any, do you remember how the defendant responded?
He would take it, and if it was to his liking, he would come back in, and he would then chastise me, and I would be forgiven.
Oh, now she got chastised.
Mm.
And when you say chastised, that he chastised you, what again do you mean by that?
Meaning that I was spanked
By whom?
by the defendant,
And what did he use to spank you?
his open palm,
Here we go.
On what part of your body?
on my legs and my butt.
And were you
Lord,
when he spanked you?
I was not. How were you not? Okay, I was not.
Now you mentioned earlier, because it's all a part of foreplay.
Mm-hmm.
Now you mentioned earlier that the defendant told you that the defendant didn't want you to talk about your him or him and you with others. Do you recall that testimony?
Yes, I do.
Did you always follow that rule?
I did not.
Was there ever a time when the defendant learned that you had not followed that rule?
Yes.
What happened?
It would usually result in me getting chastised.
Do you remember a particular instance where the defendant learned that you had been talking about personal business?
In Atlanta, yes.
What happened?
That is the incident that I already expressed.
Mm.
Oh, the one you testified earlier about involving Maya?
Yes.
You testified earlier about an individual named Juice. Do you recall that this morning?
Yes, I do.
At the time when you met Juice, who did you understand Juice to be?
He had expressed to me that Juice was a homegirl of his that was in town from Chicago.
And did you later learn that Juice had a different relationship with the defendant?
Yes, I did.
What did you learn?
That she was actually a living girlfriend of the defendant.
And what, if any, instructions did Juice give to you?
Juice would basically she would try to tell me what to wear or how to dress or not to talk to men or just to like ignore specific situations.
And what, if anything, did you think about the instructions that you were receiving from Juice?
Initially, I didn't know that they were coming from him, so I didn't care.
Do you recall having any conversation with other people about that?
Yes, I do.
Who do you remember telling?
I had expressed to my family. Well, why didn't they come get you? Okay.
Exactly.
I never seen that part. What did you express to your family?
Mm-hmm.
That I did not like Juice, and because she was like to tell me everything to do.
And at any point, did the defendant learn about that?
Yes, he did.
How did the defendant learn?
He happened to check my phone and he saw it.
What did he say?
See,
He saw that I had texted my parents and I had expressed that Juice was basically acting like a PO and that I didn't like her. And
What do you mean by a PO?
why didn't they come and get you?
Right.
Meaning that every little detail she would be trying to tell me, no, you can't do this, you can't do this, or that, or you can't do that, or you can't just leave out. And I thought that it was very bizarre for her, another woman, to be telling me what I could and could not be doing.
And when you say PO, what does PO stand for?
Like a police officer.
What did the defendant do, if anything, when he saw that you had been communicating about Juice with your family?
He immediately made me text them and apologize and said that everything was on good terms between me and you.
And did you do that?
Yes, I did.
What, if anything, else happened?
After that, I never mentioned Juice to them again.
You testified earlier about a sexual
Here we go.
contact that you had with the defendant, including while you were 17. Did you also have sexual contact with other women in the defendant's presence?
Yes, I did.
Huh?
Yes, I did.
Hello? Oh. Whose idea was it for you to have sexual contact with others in the presence of the defendant?
It was the defendant's choice.
At the defendant's direction, did you have sexual contact?
Objection.
I haven't heard the question yet.
May I continue?
Well, don't lead if that's what you're starting to do.
All right. How many people did you have sexual contact with at the same time?
Every setting was different. It was whatever the defendant wanted. However, there were times it was everybody and girlfriend, meaning there were times where it could possibly be a woman that he knew in Chicago for a weekend.
But fair to say it was more than one?
Yes.
Now, who would choose which female you would have the sexual encounter with on a particular occasion?
The defendant.
I'm showing what's in evidence as Government Exhibit 52B. Who is that again?
That is Juice.
Did you ever have sexual encounters with Juice?
I did, yes.
Whose idea was that?
The defendant's.
Do you recall how old you were when you first had a sexual encounter with Juice?
I was 17 for 5 years.
I am showing the witness what's in evidence as Government's Exhibit 69B. Who is that?
Meek.
Did you ever have a sexual encounter with defendant with Meek?
I did, yes.
Whose idea was that?
The defendant's.
Of course.
I'm showing what's in evidence as Government's Exhibit 72. Who is that?
V.
Did you ever have a sexual encounter with V?
I did, yes.
Whose idea was that?
The defendant's.
You little whore.
And I'm showing what's in evidence as Government Exhibit 78. Who is that?
Joy.
Did you ever have a sexual encounter with her?
I did, yes.
Whose idea was that?
The defendant's, of course.
I'm showing the witness only what's been marked for identification as Government's Exhibit 76. Without saying the individual's name, do you recognize who that is?
I do, yes.
And how did you meet that individual?
Through the defendant.
What, if any, sexual contact did you have with that individual?
We were intimate, yes.
That doesn't sound real.
Exactly.
Right. That doesn't make sense.
I wonder who was that they didn't name.
I know, me too. Whose idea was that?
The defendant's, of course.
Of course.
Of course.
The government offers Government's Exhibit 76.
Any objection?
No.
All right. That's in evidence. Is that for the jury or for?
Yes, you can publish it.
Of course.
And I'm showing the witness only what's been marked for identification as Government's Exhibit 77. Do you recognize Government's Exhibit 77?
I do, yes.
Without saying her name, how did you meet her?
Through the defendant.
And what, if any, sexual contact did you have with that individual?
We were intimate.
Whose idea was that?
The defendant, obviously.
The government offers Exhibit 77.
No objection.
Okay. That's in evidence.
May I publish? Now, you just testified about sexual contact that you had with a number of females. Was the defendant present when you had sexual contact with those individuals?
Every time.
Was there ever a time when he wasn't present?
Never.
Who, if any, of the defendant's employees did he ask you to have sexual contact with?
Objection, Your Honor.
Overruled.
Of course.
Of-
A few, actually.
Do you remember their names?
Lily and Cassandra, I believe.
I'm sorry.
I objected to the last response.
Overruled.
I'm showing the witness what's been marked for identification as Government's Exhibit 41. The witness only. Do you recognize Government's Exhibit 41?
I do.
Who is that?
That is Cassandra.
Is that the Cassandra that you just mentioned the defendant had you have sexual contact with?
Yes, it is.
Government offers Government's Exhibit 41.
Any objection?
No.
Okay. That's in evidence.
And I'm now showing what's been marked for identification to the witness only, Government's Exhibit 42. What's shown in Government's Exhibit 42? Do you recognize?
Yes, I do.
Who is that?
That is Lily.
And is Lily the individual you identified as Lily the same Lily that you just testified the defendant had you have a sexual encounter with?
Yes, she is.
Government offers Exhibit 42.
Any objection?
None.
Okay. That's in evidence.
Rhoda, can you do this for 1 second?
Sure.
Thanks.
Okay. Aside from the women who you just identified, were there any women or other females with whom the defendant directed you to have a sexual encounter with?
Yes.
Do you know the names of those individuals? Without saying them, do you know their names?
Yes.
Hold on just 1 second. All right. Does anybody on the jury need a break?
No. Can I talk to you at the side?
Oh, well, I don't need you to address it here. No. Can you wait for a few minutes, or do you have to talk to her now? We're going to take a 5-minute break. Please don't talk about the case, and you can address whatever issues you have with Miss Green. All right?
All right.
All right. The witness can step down. Let's bring them back if we're all done. One of the jurors says he can't see the picture, so
I'll keep them on for a longer period of time. I can show them again.
all right. And I'll give them an instruction that they'll be able to see them when they're deliberating as well.
Shit.
I know you don't want me to ask this question, but do you have any idea how long your direct will be?
I'm going to be the rest of the day, but I'm hoping that I will be finished or very near finished.
Okay. All right. Everybody can sit down. Sorry. Should we get the witness? Let's get the witness back. Yes? All right. Let's get the jury, please.
All rise. You may be seated.
May I proceed?
Yes, go ahead.
The witness is reminded she is still under oath.
Before you do proceed, I just want to remind you, there are lots of pieces of evidence coming in. And I've asked the Assistant United States Attorneys to make sure that is up for a long enough time for you to take a look at it. But also, you don't have to commit any of these things to memory. In your final deliberations, you have access to all of the evidence during your deliberations. So with that, you can go ahead.
Your Honor, may I briefly just show the photos that I previously put on the Elmo?
Let's continue. And then we'll, you know what? Go ahead and show them. That's fine.
Okay, I'll be brief. This is Government's Exhibit 78, 52B, 69B, 72, 76, 77, 41, 42. All right. You testified that in addition to the females that I just placed on the screen for the jury, that there were, in addition, the other females that the defendant asked you to have sexual contact or told you to have sexual contact with. Is that correct?
Yes.
And do you recall some of the names of those additional individuals?
Not all of them, but yes, a few.
Who do you remember?
There was a girl by the name of Chrissy. There was another woman by the name of Auntie April. And those are the only two names that I know.
And were there additional individuals, additional females who the defendant directed you to have sex with, whose names you do not currently remember?
Yes.
Did you always know the names of the individuals who you had sexual contact with at the defendant's direction?
No. Yikes.
Objection.
I didn't hear. I'm sorry, Mr. Canning.
Objection to the characterization of that question. Direction.
Overruled.
Of course.
How frequently did you have sexual encounters with females?
Whenever the defendant wanted to. So it could be every day, back to back, or it could be every 2 days, or what in the world?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's
And everybody passing around herpes, I guess. Okay.
Exactly. She the super spreader.
Mm-hmm.
During those sexual encounters, who, if anyone, was in charge?
The defendant was always in charge.
And why do you say that?
Because he told everyone exactly what to do.
Who would he tell what to do?
Me and the other women.
What types of things would he say, or what types of things would he tell you or the other female to do?
He would orchestrate everything. So again, if he wanted one person to walk while someone was giving him oral head, then that's what it would be. If he wanted to have vaginal penetration while making the other person would walk or crawl, then that's what it would be.
How is that a threesome?
Exactly.
Were any of these sexual encounters recorded?
Yes, they were.
Who recorded them?
The defendant. Who else?
He's talented. He's having a threesome plus
Hello, and recording and doing everything, especially with
right. Like, I mean, that's
know, right?
impossible, but okay.
Mm-hmm.
With what were these encounters recorded?
With an iPad, of all things.
Of all things, yeah. Okay.
Here we go again. And again, how old were you when those sexual encounters with other females began?
What do you think? I was 17 in 5 years.
Late love is 17.
Yeah, 17 is that magic number.
And again, that was the legal consent in Chicago, wasn't it?
That's
And
what I thought.
most of this stuff happened in Chicago, I would think.
Chicago, yeah.
Did you want any of these sexual encounters with other women?
Never. Why did you leave then?
Pardon me? Why did you do it?
because he would force me to do so.
Mm.
How so?
Sometimes it would be a punishment, and other times I would be, he would tell me to come to the room, and he would already be in the middle of an act.
Oh my God. Were there times when you resisted having sexual encounters with a female?
Yes, there were.
What, if anything, happened when you resisted?
He would usually tell me to wait in another room until he was done, and I would, as usual, chastise.
I just be chastised. I be chastised every day.
And where would the defendant tell you to wait?
If
Get
we
together.
were in a hotel, then I would have to wait in the restroom, or if we were, regardless of where we were, I would usually have to wait in a restroom or another room that was near where he was having intercourse.
And you said that after that you would see the defendant.
Yeah, I would have to wait until he was done.
And what do you mean again by the defendant would chastise you?
Meaning that he would spank me.
Your turn, spank me, baby.
And why did you understand the defendant was spanking you?
Because he wanted me to perform the specific way, and I did not do so.
Girl, go watch 50 Shades of Grey.
And what specifically did he want you to perform?
He wanted me to be intimate with another woman, with other women.
You testified that there were a recording made. Were those video recordings?
Yes, they were.
Did you ever see any of those video recordings?
Yes, I did.
In what context would you see video recordings of sexual encounters between you and other females?
If you wanted to play it back and show you, he would, but it would usually be us in the middle of having intercourse or oral sex.
And what would happen in the middle of that?
He would just be playing back when we had just done.
For what reason or why did you understand he was doing that?
To have you like brag and boast about it.
Who chose the women who you had those sexual encounters with?
The defendant, of course.
You testified earlier that you were homeschooled for your senior year of high school. Is that right?
Yes.
Did you graduate?
Yes, I did.
And after you graduated high school, did you consider attending college?
At the time, no, I did not.
Why not?
Because I had already forfeited all my scholarships.
What do you mean by that?
I was no longer taking vocal classes or Patriot singers, so there was really no other scholarship that I had been pursuing. Oh my gosh, you didn't have academic scholarships? Jeez, who would have thought?
You testified that earlier that you were with the defendant for part of the Black Panties tour as well as the buffet tour. Did you accompany the defendant on any other tours?
Yes, he had an after party tour.
Do you remember when that was?
I do not remember the year that it started, no.
When the defendant was not on tour, where would you usually spend your time in that city or cities?
Atlanta, Georgia.
When you were in Chicago, where would you spend your nights?
The studio.
Which studio?
In the beginning of 2015, the Ohio, and later the Justine Street studio.
And is the Justine Street studio the studio where the photos in Government's Exhibit 926 were of?
Why does
Yes.
she keep asking these same questions?
That's what I'm saying. What difference does
Jesus Christ.
what
Like
does
I'm going in a circle.
like?
I know.
Okay, go continue. I'm sorry. I was thinking out loud.
We keep going all the way back to the studio.
9:14.
And is Justine Street studio the studio where the photos in Government Exhibit 926 were of?
Yes.
Over the time that you were with the defendant, who, if anyone, stayed at the Justine Street studio?
All of his other living girlfriends.
She said, okay. And where in the studio would they stay?
Everyone had their own place.
And by place, where was it? What do you mean?
Well, I mean, usually Juice and V had a room. Meek was usually in the master bedroom or the bunk bedroom. Joy was usually in the living room. And me and the defendant were usually in the downstairs living room on the couch. So you and the
Now,
defendant were together, not the other girl.
Mhm.
right? Now you testified earlier that I thought she had the master bedroom.
Exactly. See,
Now you
She was on the
testified
couch.
earlier that some of the photos in 926 were different than how you remembered them because there was furniture missing. Is that right?
That is correct.
And what type of furniture was missing?
The majority of the bedrooms were taken out of the studio.
And were those the bedrooms where Juice and Joy, Meek and V, and you and the defendant slept?
Yes, it was.
What, if any, rules did the defendant have for the manner in which you interacted with men other than the defendant?
We cannot talk to any men at all.
When you were in an elevator, what would you do?
We would have to turn around.
And when you say we, who are you referring to?
All of his living girlfriends.
Including Juice and Joy and Neek and V? Huh?
we did this at the beginning of the testimony. Oh my God, and they're doing it again.
Did you say yes?
Where was the yes at? Oh, yes.
Okay.
I was like, where was the yes at?
And why did you understand that you should turn around when you entered an elevator?
Because we were not allowed to look at men.
Who told you that?
The defendant.
And when you say turned around in an elevator, what were you facing?
I would have to face the corner.
How about when you went to a nail salon? What, if any, restrictions were there? Did the defendant have for you when you went to a nail salon?
If there was a man working, then I would not be able to go into the establishment.
What would you do?
I would have to leave out and call him immediately and let him know that there was a man working.
What, if anything, did the defendant typically carry with him?
What line are you on?
21.
Okay, let me see. He carried a backpack.
Objection.
Overruled.
Okay.
Did he carry it himself or did someone carry it on his behalf?
It was both.
Who would carry when someone else was carrying it? Who would carry it?
Sometimes he would give it to me or any of his other living girlfriends, and sometimes he would give it to his assistants.
Which of his assistants might he give it to?
His Uncle Bug.
Did you ever have an opportunity to look inside the backpack?
Yes.
What did you see in it?
Usually it was only iPads, a white tee, maybe like basketball shorts, and usually a dildo.
Now, didn't she say she packed his bag for him?
Mm,
Yeah.
mm.
How many iPads did you see in the defendant's backpack at once?
It depends on how many he could fit in that backpack, but usually anywhere from 4 to 6.
Really?
Did you ever attend basketball games with the defendant?
Yes, I did.
What did you do during those basketball games?
I would sit with the other living girlfriends on the side.
Who, if anyone else, would you sit with other than the living girlfriends?
An assistant.
And what would you do during the basketball games?
We would just have to watch the defendant play and only him.
And what do you mean by watch only him?
Like if we ended up looking at another man, we would get a chastising for it.
And what do you mean by chastising?
A spanking.
Now that would be awful hard. How would he know who they was looking at when he's concentrating and playing basketball?
And another thing, why is she reliving all this? We did all this at the beginning of her testimony. We knew what chastising meant. We knew what spanking was. About them turning in the elevator. About them playing basketball. So now we back at it again.
Keep thinking I'm having deja vu.
How often did you watch the defendant play basketball?
Nearly every night.
Where did you watch him play basketball?
Usually his old high school or churches would open up their basketballs at nighttime for him.
How would you travel around Chicago when you were in Chicago?
He had 2 Sprinter vans, and anytime I needed to take a taxi.
Who would travel on the Sprinter van?
Me, the defendant, the driver, whichever assistant was there for the time being. And if it was anyone else, then it would be me, him, and his living girlfriends.
Where would you go in the Sprinter van?
We would usually just go to the parks or park outside of the cigar bar or just to get food.
When he went to the cigar bar, what would you do?
We would have to stay on the Sprinter until he got back on.
What would the defendant do?
He would get off and go smoke cigars. That's what a cigar bar is. Okay.
And who was the we in the sentence when you said we would have to stay on the Sprinter van?
Me and his other living girlfriends.
Was there a bathroom on the Sprinter van?
No, there was not.
What would you do if you needed to use a bathroom while you were on the Sprinter van?
All of us would have to turn around and let the other person go behind the seat. Ew.
Why not walk outside and find a bathroom?
Because we weren't allowed to get off the Sprinter.
Who told you that you weren't allowed to get off the Sprinter?
The defendant, of course.
And again, when you say us, who are you referring to?
Me and his other girlfriend.
You testified that there were also some of the defendant's assistants who were sometimes on the Sprinter van. Is that right?
Yes.
Were there times when an assistant needed to use a bathroom?
Yes.
What would the assistant do?
An assistant could get off.
And use the bathroom outside of the Sprinter van?
Yes.
You said that you would go to the bathroom in the Sprinter van. How would you do that?
They usually had gas station, like extra large cups, and they need to keep towels and tissue paper on the Sprinter.
When the defendant returned to the Sprinter van after some time anyway, how, if at all, would you act when he returned?
Everyone would have to get up and greet him and kiss him immediately.
Were there times when you saw other of his living girlfriends break one of the defendant's rules?
Yes.
What, if anything, would you do?
I would have to report it.
Of course.
Report it to whom?
The defendant.
Why would you do that?
Because I'm a snitch. Because that was a rule. If you did, you would also get chastised for not letting him know.
And how did you know about the rule?
Because I had witnessed it.
What do you mean?
I had seen it happen to a few of the other girls.
What have you seen happen?
Meaning when one of them did not let him know, he began to chastise them.
And again, what do you mean by chastising?
Spanking.
While you were living with the defendant, did the defendant employ other people to fulfill certain roles for him?
Yes, he did.
What roles did he employ people to do?
He had personal doctors, he had accountants, attorneys, assistants for his living girlfriends and for himself personally. And he had security. Of course, he had the tour driver.
Did you testified earlier about Top Gun. Who was Top Gun again?
That was his tour bus driver.
And were there other individuals who drove the defendant's Sprinter or tour buses?
Yes, for the most part. Tour bus, no Sprinter, yes. Usually it was his security or his like entourage or sometimes family members.
Were you ever? Oh, you also mentioned that the defendant had his assistants that helped him. In particular, who were they?
His assistants were usually male assistants, and for the girls, it was a female assistant.
And the male assistants that the defendant had, did you learn any of their names?
Yes, I did.
Who were some of the male assistants?
His uncle Junebug was a person. Junebug.
And I'm showing you what's been marked for identification as Government's Exhibit 3. I think this one is actually in evidence. Do you recognize Government's Exhibit 3?
Yes.
Who is that?
That is Junebug.
And was that one of the defendant's assistants?
Yes.
Can you put Government 3 on there, please? And I am now showing you what's in evidence as Government Exhibit 4. Do you recognize Government's Exhibit 4?
Yes.
Who is that?
That is Uncle Junebug.
And what role did Uncle Bug serve for the defendant?
He was his personal assistant. I already said that.
Can you put Government 4? Is Junebug and Uncle Bug two different people?
Which line are you on?
That's what they're making it seem like in here.
Uncle Bug and Junebug. Yeah, they got it like it's different people.
Yeah, because it's the same person, isn't it?
Uncle Bug and Junebug.
Oh, wow.
Let's see. Let's go back up. It says
She said his
Uncle
Uncle Bug.
Bug and a person, Junebug. Yes, they.
So they're trying to make up two people as the same person.
Yeah. Oh Lord, they need to stop with the foolishness.
And what role did Uncle Bug serve for the defendant?
He was his personal assistant.
Can you put Government 4? Thank you. You also mentioned that the defendant had assistants for his female guests. Were you one of those female guests?
Yes.
Do you know the names of his assistants for his female guests?
Yes.
Who were they?
Cheryl, Diana, twins, Lily, Asante, and Cassandra.
I couldn't hear you.
Oh, Cheryl. Oh, wait. Oh, Cheryl, Diana, the twins, Lily, Asante, and Cassandra.
Do you know Cheryl's last name?
Cheryl Mack.
Can you put Government's Exhibit 38, which is in evidence? Again, putting Government's Exhibit 38 on the screen. Who is that?
That is Cheryl.
And you also mentioned the twins. Do you know the twins' name?
Suzette and Alicette, I believe.
Alicia.
Who?
Alicia.
Oh, Alicia. Okay, I believe.
And what did they do for the defendant?
They were assistants for the girls, his girlfriends.
And I am showing you what's been marked for identification. I'm showing the witness only what's been marked for identification as Government's Exhibit 39. Who is that?
That's Suzette.
The government offers 39.
Any objection?
No objection.
Okay, that's in evidence.
Well, actually, I think that is the other twin. I'm sorry, they're they're twins.
So you're not sure which one it is?
They're literally identical twins.
All right. So that's one of the twins. Is that right?
Yes.
All right.
And I'm showing you government's exhibit. I am showing the witness only what's marked for identification as government's exhibit 40. Do you recognize government's exhibit 40?
Yes. This is Suzette,
And who is she?
an assistant.
Was she one of the twins?
Yes.
And you testified earlier that these were assistants for his female guest. Who employed these assistants?
The defendant, of course.
And who did these assistants work for?
His female guest.
Who did they take direction from?
The defendant and from his girlfriends.
The government offers government's exhibit 40.
Any objection?
Nope.
All right. That's in evidence.
I am showing the witness only what's been marked for identification as government's exhibit 36. Who is shown in government's exhibit 36?
That is Diana.
And what did Diana do?
She was an assistant for his girlfriends.
The government offers government exhibit 36.
No
Wasn't
objection.
she his assistant too?
Hmm.
Or she just worked for the girlfriends? I thought she was his assistant too.
That's what I thought too.
She
That's what she
showed
said on Good Morning America.
and she's separating herself like it's me and the girlfriends.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's in evidence.
And I'm showing you showing the witness only what's been marked for identification as government's exhibit 74. Do you recognize what's shown in 74?
Yes.
What is that?
That is Asante.
Do you guys remember that video where Azriel said that she never met Asante?
Mm-mm.
Rhoda?
Mhm.
Tanya?
What video was it? What
There was a video. She was talking to, I can't think of who, but she said she never met Asante McGee.
Mm.
She did be the Asante McGee because
I gotta go back. I'm gonna find it. What did Asante do?
she was training to be an assistant for his live-in girlfriends.
And who did she work for?
The defendant, of course. Wait, she wasn't a girlfriend? Oh my gosh, let her tell it.
Right?
That's what I'm saying. It's like, why didn't you say and she was training to work for us? Because you were
Right.
one of the girlfriends.
Right. But I know there's a video where she said she didn't know her. The
It probably
government,
is out there.
huh?
It's probably out there, I'm sure.
I'm gonna find it. The government offers government exhibit 74.
Any objection?
No.
All right. That's in evidence.
And I am showing the witness, I am showing everyone what's in evidence as government exhibit 41. Who is that again?
That is Cassandra.
What did she do for the defendant?
She was an assistant to him and his living girlfriends.
And government exhibit 42, which is in evidence already. Who is that?
That is Lily.
What did she do?
She was an assistant for the defendant and his live-in girlfriend.
You testified that the defendant also employed people as security. Did you know some of the individuals who served as security for the defendant?
His security was always men, but I do know of one who was a female.
Now, do you know the names of any of the men who served as security for the defendant?
No, I do not.
You testified that there was also a female. Is that right?
Yes, there was.
Do you know the name of the individual?
Her name was Candy.
I am showing the witness only what's been marked for identification as Government's Exhibit 22. One moment. Do you recognize the individual shown in Government's Exhibit 22?
Yes,
Who is that?
that is Candy.
What did Candy do for the defendant?
She was security.
The government offers Government's Exhibit 22.
No objection.
That's in evidence, and you can publish.
I am showing the witness only what's been marked for identification as Government's Exhibit 5. Do you recognize Government Exhibit 5?
My screen is black.
I'm sorry. Can I show the witness only what's been marked for identification as Government's Exhibit 5?
Yes, I do.
Who is that?
I believe that is a family member of the defendant.
What, if anything, did he do for the defendant?
He played basketball with the defendant, and he did act as like an assistant.
Do you know his name?
I believe it was Van.
The government offers Government's Exhibit 5.
Your Honor, my only objection is, does she know or not? She's saying, I believe.
I can't hear you. I'm so sorry.
Yes, you can.
My only objection is either she knows this person or she doesn't. She believes.
Oh, okay. When you say you believe you know him, do you know the person?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I do.
Anything else?
What's his name?
I don't know if he went by Van or Vance. Then you don't know him.
Okay, no objection, Your Honor.
That's in evidence.
Thank you. Was there a time when you did, in fact, become pregnant while you were with the defendant?
There was.
Do you remember when that was?
It was in 2017.
Did you have the baby?
I did not.
What happened?
The defendant made me get an abortion.
What, if anything, did he tell you?
He had expressed that he still wanted me to keep my body tight and that he wanted to start a family when he had got rid of the rest of the girls.
Did you ultimately get an abortion?
I did.
Who arranged that appointment?
The defendant and his assistant, Diana.
And who took you to the appointment?
Diana.
Did you want to have an abortion?
I did not.
I am showing the witness only what's been marked for identification as Government's Exhibit 481. Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
Did you recognize what was shown in Government's Exhibit 481?
Yes.
Our screen is black.
That's because she was only showing her.
Government's Exhibit 41, displaying. What is that?
It was a conversation between me and the defendant.
And do you know approximately when that took place?
I didn't look at the date. I'm sorry.
Do you remember what was going on when that took place?
Yes, I was pregnant.
And was that before you had the abortion?
That was immediately after I had let him know that I was pregnant.
And did this contain statements from the defendant?
Yes, it does.
The government offers 481.
Any objection?
Cannot see it.
You should have 481.
Ain't what I asked you.
That is a question I have. Do you guys have a binder of the government's exhibits?
Yes.
Okay.
No objection.
All right. That's in evidence.
that you wrote her.
Do you want this jury only?
No, you can publish this.
Okay.
I want to direct, and if you want me to bring it to you, because the type is small, this is one here, this one right here, indicating where my pen is pointing. Can you tell who wrote that particular text message?
The defendant.
Can you read that?
He said, I'm not going to lie. I was happy to know that as well. I really was bare, but I also was kind of thrown back the way you acted to my reaction. I don't care what's going on in our life. I need to be trusted by you 1,000,000%. That way, when I say something, you don't have to hesitate. You do it and you go with it. And when you do that, I don't know. I just know who you are to me. I know you were young, but that is no excuse to disobey me or not do what I tell you to do. You have some issues in that area of not doing what I tell you, all when you get in trouble. You shut down and be hard headed. You cut me off while I'm talking. Now you didn't used to do, now you used to didn't do any of that. Believe me, God know I want the same things you want, but God also knows my heart. And it's never going to happen until you grow up and start to show me you are going to do what you were supposed to do. Because I go through too much to have to deal with, because I go through too much to have to deal with you not giving me the information that I told you over and over to give me. When you know you're young and there's a lot of things you don't know. So when you argue back at me, it shows me that you rebel on me, and it shows me that you're not humble as you used to be. You are young, therefore you have no say so yet. Accept that, own it, and be glad that you have someone to make the decisions, and be thankful that all he wants all those things with you. So make sure your motive, hold on, wait. So make sure your motive is right before doing something like that. Make sure you want to do it because you're old enough, wise enough, and strong enough, and not just because you want to be bonded with me, because I want to groom you and be bonded with you 1,000,000% before that. And it's absolutely nothing wrong with it if you know you're going to do what you're supposed to do and get it together, or you should have no problem being patient and waiting. This don't say nothing about having no abortion.
It don't. This
Like,
ain't gonna come a
it
whole
doesn't
lot of
say
stuff.
anything about that. That's all I'm going to say. Wait now. Other than that, I love you. I'm in love with you, and I will never change my mind about me and you and us. Now get some sleep.
When he wrote all that.
And who wrote that?
The defendant, of course. Doesn't he not know how to write? He doesn't write well.
That's what they say. That was a whole lot.
Yeah, that was a pretty wordy message for somebody who's not a good, writer.
But did they have any proof of the abortion? Did they bring that in?
No, they couldn't bring her medical stuff in.
But they could bring his.
Right, like.
During your time with the defendant, did he ever mention his marriage to Aaliyah to you?
Here we go.
He did, yes.
On one occasion or more than one occasion?
On more than one occasion.
I want to direct your attention to a conversation that you had in front of others about Aaliyah. Do you recall where that took place?
Yes, I do.
Where was it?
It was at a park.
Who else was present for the conversation?
The rest of his girlfriends.
And how did the defendant's marriage to Aaliyah come up?
The defendant said that we could ask him anything.
What, if anything, was asked with respect to Aaliyah and his marriage to her?
Objection.
Overruled.
Of course.
We asked many questions. All of us took turns, and basically we asked him about that situation and what they basically got married.
What, if anything, did the defendant say?
Objection.
Overruled. It's a statement of the defendant. Go ahead.
The defendant
Isn't
had
that
expressed to
hearsay?
all of us, huh?
Isn't it hearsay?
Yep.
Yeah. Because, I mean, you don't have no recording of it.
Exactly.
Lord. She just let anything
She let
slide.
anything fly. She sure did.
Anything. Overruled. The defendant had expressed to all of us that Aaliyah was pregnant and that they needed a certificate for her to be married in order for her to possibly get an abortion.
And remember, now you know that's a lie because she never was pregnant.
Right.
That's what Demetria said.
Mhm.
What if she's just following the scenario? What, if anything, else did the defendant say about Aaliyah?
He had expressed that because she was a minor, that in order for her to get an abortion outside of her parents, the only people that could go with her was a spouse, and that was their reasoning for getting married.
What, if anything, did the defendant say about a phone that Aaliyah had?
He said that he gave her money and a bat phone.
What did you understand the defendant to mean by a bat phone?
A burner phone.
Why did you understand that to be the case?
He said that he had given her a bat phone just in case it was basically 911, an emergency, and she had no way of getting in touch with him. And that was the only time to use the phone.
Did you have any other conversations with the defendant about the use of a burner phone?
Yes.
What were those?
When I had went back to Florida to get homeschooled, he also had gave me money just in case I needed to get a bat phone.
And when you say he, who are you referring to?
The defendant.
During that time that you spent with the defendant, what, if anything, did he ask you to write for him?
He would make us write letters.
And when you say us, who are you referring to?
Me and the rest of his girlfriends.
How did you learn that the defendant wanted you to write letters?
He had come in and he had told us it was time for us to write letters. And the other girls automatically knew what that meant. And he had basically told them to help me.
Did the defendant tell you why he wanted you to write this letter?
Yes.
What did he say?
He said because of his past, his previous attorney had made.
Objection.
Overruled.
Of course.
Judge.
Do you want to lead through this, please? Let me just see the parties over at the side for our 100 sidebar. Is this what we just talked about?
I did. I provided Your Honor ruling, but she's not going to say anything other than his.
Because of his past?
His attorneys told him to do it because of his past. She's not mentioning what his past is.
Okay. All right.
All right.
You testified that the defendant told you that he wanted you to write these letters because of something his attorneys had said. Is that correct?
Where are we at?
Line 5.
Oh, what page?
Yeah.
995.
Okay. Oh, yes.
Did he tell you what he wanted to be included in this letter?
Yes, he did.
What did he say?
He said that these were basically letters that would never see the day of light. What? And that they were to basically exploit us to protect him.
And what, if anything, did the defendant want you to include in the letters themselves?
He wanted us to include letters saying that we had stolen money from him, that we had stolen watches from him, that we had been molested by family members, that we had been abused and neglected by family members, and so forth.
Had you, in fact, stolen money from the defendant?
I had not.
And had you been molested by any family members?
I had not.
Whose idea was the particular content of the letter?
It was the defendant's.
You notice she never asked her if she was abused?
Mm-mm.
And when she said you've never been neglected by family members, clearly you were neglected if you wanted to get picked up and they wouldn't come get you.
And your family ain't there. You've been with him all this time. Come on.
It seems like neglect.
And she never asked if she was abused.
Mm-mm. Nope.
From what perspective would you write the letter?
We will write the letters in past tense in the sense that since we had already left and we're trying to get back to him.
Can you give an example of the type of letter that you might write? And actually, let me back up a moment. Did you write one letter or more than one letter?
We wrote multiple letters, about 4 to 5 each.
Can you give an example of the type of letter you had written at the request of the defendant?
I would say, this isn't like actual physical evidence. I would say, I'm sorry that I stole $30,000 from you. I hope that you can forgive me. Please let me back into your life. Things pertaining to that.
Who, if anyone, was present when you would write those letters?
The defendant and his living girlfriends.
And how often would you write those letters?
We would write these letters every year.
And did you say you would write 4 to 5 each year?
Yes.
What would you do once you wrote one of these letters?
He would have Juice go over them and make sure that they weren't too similar.
And what happened after that?
Juice will also make sure that our signature matched, and if it didn't, we would have to rewrite it.
What did you understand Juice to be confirming matched?
She would make us get our IDs, and she would look at the signature on our IDs, and at the end of the letter, and if it didn't match, we would have to rewrite the letter by hand.
What would you do once the letter had been approved?
The defendant would take them, and he said that he would give them to his attorneys.
Did you ever see those letters again?
I would never see those again.
You testified earlier about a video recording that the defendant made of sexual encounters with you and others. Is that right?
Yes.
Were there other video recordings that the defendant had you make?
Yes, there were.
What?
He would sometimes make videos as punishments.
Can you describe some of the videos that you made as punishments? And actually, before you do, what do you mean by punishment?
Meaning that even after I was chastised, if I broke a rule and it was very severe, then on top of me being chastised, I would have a punishment.
And by chastise, what do you mean?
Spanking.
What are some of the recordings? Did that happen on one occasion or more than one occasion?
More than one occasion.
Can you describe the recordings that the defendant made you make as punishment?
Yes. There was an incident where after he had chastised me over 15 times, he had pulled out an iPad and he told me to make a video saying that my father had molested me while I was still crying from him chastising me.
And again, just to be clear, whose idea was the contents of the video?
The defendant, of course.
Was any of what you said true?
No, it was not.
Why did you make the video?
Because the defendant made me.
Were there other videos that the defendant had you make?
Yes, there were.
Can you describe those?
There was another incident where the defendant had told Juice to get a new iPad for me to record myself eating feces.
How did that come about?
It was a punishment, and the defendant had come to me and he said, I don't know what punishment I'm going to give you just yet. And then a few hours later, he came back and told me what it would be.
And what did he tell you to do?
He told me exactly what to do in the video. He told me to smear it on my face and what exactly to say and to like put it in my mouth and act like I enjoyed it.
You could get sick. That's E. coli.
Right.
Liar.
And what was it that he wanted you to smear on your face?
Feces.
Did you do it?
I did, yes.
I'd have been out of there so quick. Come
I
on.
would have too.
Why did you do it?
You texting your mama about baggy clothes and all this. Why
But
you ain't
not
texting
that.
about
Right.
But not that.
he forcing feces on you and all this? Honey, please, girl, have several seats.
Zach, why did you do it?
Because it was a punishment.
Did you want to be doing that?
I did not.
Where did you do that?
I did that at the Justine Street studio in Chicago.
What did you do with the video after? Who made the video?
I made the video on the iPad.
What did you do with the video after you made it?
The defendant took the iPad and watched the video.
How did
So
he
she
respond?
made it. She made the video herself. He didn't record it, but she made the video her own self.
Would you want to kiss a woman, Terry? Just being serious. Would you kiss a woman after a woman did something like that?
Heck
Well,
no.
if you're being serious, you ought to know my answer. I'm sorry, but excuse the expression. I don't put up with no shh.
I know that's right.
Did you redo it?
Wait, where am I at?
Wait. How did he respond?
Oh, okay. He said that I wasn't into it enough and that I would have to redo it.
Did you redo it?
I did not.
I'm showing the witness. Sorry, I'm showing everyone what's in evidence is government exhibit 926. And this is page 26. What is shown on page 26?
This is the first small studio room in which me and the defendant would sleep in here at times.
Not a video of the shit face.
That's what I was wondering. I'm like, I think y'all don't have
my
that.
language, but
That's where they should be offering that. This is and is there anything through this door area?
Yes, it's a hallway.
One moment.
If you can find a convenient, we have a few more minutes, but if you can find a convenient time to break.
I'm showing page 4 of government's exhibit 926. What is in 926?
The studio on 219 North Justine Street.
And where my pen is pointing, what is located in that area?
To the left is the restroom and where the defendant made me make the video.
And what, if anything, did the defendant say about other similar videos?
He said that other girls had did the same thing.
And who did you understand the defendant to mean when he referred to other girls?
Neek.
Did you ever see any of those videos?
Never.
Were there other videos that the defendant asked you to make?
No, not that I can recall. So if you never saw the videos, how can you say they exist?
And then she said other girls, but only named Nick.
Right.
And never seen him
also
before.
mentioned in JP's book for doing that.
Your Honor, this is an okay stopping point.
Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to excuse you for the night. I'll see you tomorrow. Same time, 9:30. Please don't read anything about the case. Don't speak to anybody about the case. But have a good night. I'll see you tomorrow. All right. And the witness can step out. We'll see you tomorrow.
Okay.
All right. Do you have a sense? I don't know why I asked to try to put hope over experience, but do you know how much longer about?
Wait. I would.
I'm not rushing you.
But
I'm trying to get an idea of our schedule.
About an hour.
Anything else before we break for the day?
Not from the government.
Anything from the defense?
Nothing here.
All right. Thank you so much. I'll see you tomorrow. I'm sorry. There's one other thing. I just want to make sure if the defense has a binder of the evidence, do they know what you're planning to introduce each day?
Not each day, but there we have provided copies of each of the marked exhibits.
I just think so we can avoid having, people asking to look at things. If you can just let them know what additional things you're going to introduce, just so they can have it at their ready, just so it doesn't waste time. Okay?
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
Are we continuing or?
That's it. And this one,
That's all.
we're almost at the 2-hour mark.
Okay.
That's all anyway. That's the end.
That's it. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
I thought she said she was gonna be through by the end of the day. She's still going on the next day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because she kept talking about the same old stuff over and over.
Over and over.
I don't know what else she could talk about for another hour.
I don't understand what pictures of a room and what furniture was missing out of a room and what does that have to do with the price of gas? People change furniture all the time.
Right.
What was in this bedroom? What was removed? Where was it located again? Like,
I mean, are you showing me y'all tied up in the room and showing me a bed that y'all was tied up to? I mean, but I don't understand why you keep hampering on that. People change furniture all the time.
It's just a waste of time, this testimony, because it wasn't just nothing but about just sex. It was having like, so what?
Yeah. Y'all like those spanking?
All of them. Yeah. All of them do that. Get out of here. But then she lied when she said that to me, because this is one time when she's doing the feces and having the feces all over her face, but he wasn't behind the camera recording it. Exactly. She said she recorded it. Mm-hmm. I recorded it. Yeah, so that let me know that he wasn't even in the room. He didn't want to be a part of that shit.
Exactly. And then you're going to say, have you seen other girls? Yes. Other girls is plural, more than one. Nick, did you ever see that? Never. Okay.
Then how do you know?
Exactly. She probably was just doing it to be smart.
Do they ever unseal the parts that have been sealed?
I don't know.
I wonder if they do. Do they, Terry? Does anybody know?
What's that?
Do they ever unseal the parts that's been sealed?
I don't know unless because if it's sealed, it's sealed. But if they unseal it, I think it would have to be a darn good reason, and the judge would have to accept it or something. But I'd like to know what's sealed though.
Because all them pages in the next part are sealed. A lot of them are sealed. But I thought after the case they had. I thought they had them sealed.
No, because if it gets out and it might be prejudice to his other trial or something like that, then.
I just hope they have they can provide, get all of their stuff for the Chicago case and shut them all down. Because she wasn't letting nothing in as far as like to rebuke what they said they had abortion. They said they was this. Really?
Yeah, well.
Crazy.
Well, I'll catch y'all on the big 2 in the morning because my Lakers are about to come on.
What Miss Sylvia?
Gotta watch my team. Sorry, gotta watch my team. So I'll check y'all on the early morning of the listening in to his
at
hearing?
8 o'clock. So that's 8 o'clock Central Time, which is good. Chicago's on my time, so it's 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock.
I'll be able to listen to that. I thought it was gonna be later because then I'll have to leave and go to a funeral.
What time, Sylvia? It's supposed to be.
It's 8 o'clock Central Time.
So Central Time is 8 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
Central Standard Time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
So that
9
means
o'clock Eastern Time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 6 o'clock our time.
And then the attorney is coming
And then
on
the attorney comes on after
at
all
11.
that.
Yeah, after that.
And then I think
Okay.
we're reading again tomorrow at 7:30.
Yeah, I have to catch the replay on the attorney because I'll be gone.
Me too.
Yeah.
But good night, everybody. Bless
night.
Good
you.
night, people. Good night, chat. Good night,
Night.
Sylvia.
Good night, chat.
Good night.
Good night,
Make sure
Getty.
you hit that
Good
like
night,
button.
Rhoda.
All right. Good night, everybody. Have a blessed
Good
night.
night.
Good night.